Along to today's broadcast. Today we're sharing a special session on the 4 disciplines of execution for organisations that were at our recent event, and we had some attendees, of course, colleagues from your organisation, who learnt a fair bit about the 4 disciplines in a 3-hour session. Today is going to be a simple 50-minute session, 45. I'm going to keep it nice and tight and short for you today, so you can get to learn more about the 4 disciplines of execution and how it can apply in your own business. So as you're looking at the methodology today, of course you're here because a colleague also found the session very valuable, and they'd like you too to learn about it. So let's check it out. The methodology itself is from our company, Franklin Covey, who are leaders in strategy execution, leadership development, productivity, and trust, and developing trust within organisations. The book itself, The 4 Disciplines of Execution, has been out since 2012 now, and I really like to say that it's taken a good decade to be able to put this methodology together in such a way that you're able to apply it simply within your own businesses and deliver outstanding results. For me, it's a real great privilege as the execution practice leader for Australia and New Zealand, an absolute great privilege to work with many fantastic organisations around Australia, New Zealand and overseas as well, and probably many that will be quite familiar to you as well. I started out as a customer, which is an interesting journey where you end up loving the product and the company so much that you just have to join, and that's my backstory very, very briefly, and I'll share some items as we go through. Now, this methodology, I find, it's so simple, doesn't mean that it's easy, and that's one of the things as you're hearing about it today, you'll be considering, of course, well, what is it, and then how does it work within my own business? And one thing I'll start by saying is the methodology was never designed specifically for one industry. What it has been designed for specifically is to help leaders to work with their teams to execute on strategies that require a change in human behaviour. So essentially that means when we need to get our teams to do something better than they've been doing it before, at a faster level of quality or consistency, then we can apply the 4 disciplines of execution to drive phenomenal results within the teams. Now, what I will say as a caveat there is to get the results, like anything in life, we need to do the work. And by applying the 4 disciplines, as we share the methodology, you will see not only a drive in results, but also a drive in engagement and morale. Of course, there are a few nuances along the way. The first piece, from a paradigm perspective to understand, is that this methodology can be applied anywhere that we have a team of people. And we've literally done it from rocket scientists working on jet fighters, making jet fighters, through to retail and driving buses, and pharmaceuticals and sales and mining, consumer goods. Anywhere that there's a team of people, you can apply the 4 disciplines and really drive up your results. And think about your business as we go through this. Now, as leaders, ultimately, we are responsible for delivering results. And when it comes to delivering results, there'll be some things we can control and some things we can't control. Now, it's quite natural at times for a human being to get caught on all the different things that they can't control and consume themselves with it. And if results aren't going the way that we expect them to be, oh, well, it's the market's fault. Or the results aren't going the way we expect them to, oh, well, the competitors changed their pricing structure. Or our clients are taking a different direction. Or there's just not enough out there. Or there's just not enough time. There's so much going on. All these will fit into our can't control category. It could even be the weather that impacts the results, or a change in legislation that impacts us. All those items that we can't control, it's important that we recognise they're there, but not getting stuck or dwelling on them to the point that they reduce our capacity to move forward and focus on the things that we can control. And as leaders, there are 2 things we can control. Essentially, we can split it up into the strategy, coming up with those new goals or ideas for the future, and our ability to execute the strategy, to actually go off and get it done. Now, typically, we hear from leaders the most difficult of the 2 is the execution piece. And it's not any wonder because for most of us, we've studied strategy at some point in time. In a real simple form, strategy is about coming up with a new idea for the future. And the execution piece is then, of course, going off and getting it done. Now, strategy itself could be further split into two categories. One which we could call stroke of the pen, and the other is behavioural change. Now, stroke of the pen strategy typically are the types that the higher up we are in an organisation, the easier it is for us to do these, in the sense that we've got some form of control over budget and spending. And I like to imagine the stroke of the pen is a little bit like writing a cheque and dealing with a problem. We're going to pay for it to go away, or we're just going to make a purchase in order to see the next step forward. It could be a capital investment on some equipment. We stroke the pen and we make the purchase and we get it done. It could be the initial component of deciding on an expansion on staff by putting out the new org charts, understanding where new team members need to go, perhaps even utilising a recruitment service in order to assist us with the expansion of the staff. That would be a stroke of the pen to get that recruitment agency on board. Another one could be a strategic acquisition where we decide to, in order to scale up the business, we purchase another business that's complementary or similar to ours, and we roll it into our current setup. That would be a strategic acquisition. Another one could be to change a policy or a program. Now that's an interesting one because often we regularly rewrite a standard operating procedure or a policy or some form of program, and in reality, that first step really gives us clarity. The next step is to get the behavioural change. That's people to actually do it. That's where it gets more difficult. And so as we look at splitting strategy from stroke of the pen, then the other part is behavioural change. Now this is the space where it gets a little tougher because it requires our team members to, well, I think, to keep it really simple, do something better than they've done it before, or a higher quality than what they've been doing before, or consistency, speed, I think velocity as well there, and or volume, I want to put that in there too. So there's an activity that needs to be done better than it's been done before. Essentially what we see here is types of strategies that require new habits to be formed. So we want to get the right behaviours, and when behaviours are done frequently enough, they'll turn into habits. Improving customer experience, increasing engagement, higher quality services, faster responsiveness to situations, our speed of responsiveness, our operational consistency or operational excellence. These are all areas that require our team members to do things in order to get a better result. Now, a recent study by Bain & Company on asking leaders the question around what percentage of strategies that you currently have in play will require team members to change their behaviour. And the answer is 65%. Now, I've done my own more recent polling through talking with organisations like your own, and leaders often reflect back to me and say, Matt, in reality, it's somewhere north of 80%. Like the majority of what we're doing now really requires people to do things in a better, faster, more effectively than they've been doing before. And as a result, this real need to understand how you execute on strategies that require a change in human behaviour is critical right now. And the 4 disciplines of execution is all about helping you execute on strategies that require a change in human behaviour. So let's have a look at the 5 stages when it comes to changing behaviour and delivering results in an organisation. The first stage is that there'll be a drive to improve. And that's usually a market force of some sort. We recognise that something needs to change. The next phase after that is the leadership emphasis. And that's where we as leaders now start to say, all right, team, let's make this thing happen. Let's go. And usually this is the part where we're doing the pitch to the team, or perhaps it's our PowerPoint presentation. We're rallying the troops, we're geeing them up, getting all excited. And often we feel like it's our finest moment because there's been so much thought process go into this point. The next stage after that is team accountability, and this is where the team are able to report back specifically on the numbers and the metrics and their progress going forward. Stage after that is individual ownership, where the individual is now taking choice, and they're making their choices in order to do the right behaviours that will drive the results forward. And then by making those choices and doing the behaviours in that ownership piece and doing it frequently enough, that will eventually form the habits that will deliver our results in ways that in the near future we can do that take less effort than they ever have before. Now, this is a nice, simple model. However, in reality, most of us as leaders get stuck in the gap between the leadership emphasis and our team accountability. And it's not surprising, really. This is the spot where we hand over control. See, we've got full control on leadership emphasis. That's us as leaders, how we are responding in a situation. And then after that, we're asking our team to get involved and report back on progress and take ownership and shift their behaviours into habits. Now, we've all been around long enough to recognise that changing our own behaviour is not easy. In fact, it takes some effort. It often takes effort from ourselves, and we draw on some willpower from the people around us to keep us going and keep us motivated and towards shifting that behaviour into a new habit. Now, with those concepts at mind, the 4 disciplines of execution is a powerful and simple methodology that you can now apply with your teams to drive changes in human behaviour and deliver results that, well, quite frankly, when I work with organisations 12 months or 6 months and 12 months in, people often stop and reflect and think, wow, we didn't think we could get this far. And they're often amazed at just how far they can move forward by having a simple methodology to underpin their strategies so that they can execute them in full and deliver the results. Now, along the way, as you listen to what I'm sharing, you'll be thinking, this is really simple stuff as I get into the methodology, but please don't confuse the simplicity of it with being easy. If it was easy, everyone would be doing this by now. In reality, what we've learned is it takes some guidance and assistance to get there. And one of the main reasons is because everyone is busy. And that we call it the busyness of the business, the whirlwind or the day job. All the activities required just to keep the organisation going today are in complete conflict with any new goals or activities to significantly drive the organisation forward. You see, the whirlwind or the day job has got its own sense of urgency. And right now you're probably feeling it. You're being tempted to have a look at an email or your phone, or someone maybe even knocking on your door to try and get your attention. That's the whirlwind, the day job. All the items that are urgent and important, but also the items that are urgent and not important, that are distracting you from achieving your overall goals that will significantly drive the organisation forward. And if you think of those important goals that will significantly drive them forward, you'll find that they're the type that you really need to carve out the time to act on them. They don't happen by just the pressures or forces that are around us. It really requires to carve out the effort. And they tend to be the ones that, look, if we don't deal with it today or maybe tomorrow, the business will still continue. Whereas the whirlwind, its own urgency, I mean, you just imagine you turn off the phones at the organisation for 2 days, or if you've got a storefront, you shut up the storefront and just ignore the customers. You look at how quickly and how quickly that will have damage on the business. Whereas the strategic goals to significantly drive the organisation forward tend to be the type that, well, if we didn't do too much about it today, it wouldn't kill us in the short term, but it would certainly have some impact longer term. Now, for most, the whirlwind is full of items. Emails, sick staff, the dollars, the budgets, new revenue, new business revenue, reporting, marketing, community items, KPIs, technology changes, changes in legislation, product launches that come up, phone calls, customer satisfaction scores, new staff coming on board, all these items, and the list could go on and on and on. Now, for us, it's about recognising that the whirlwind is full. There is just so much that's going on. And the execution game is about dragging something out over onto this right-hand side and placing a disproportionate amount of time, energy, and effort on these new important goals and absolutely smashing them out of the park. That's the execution game. And to make that occur, we use the 4 disciplines to deliver upon it in full. Now, as we do so, you'll notice something quite interesting will occur. In fact, you can look inside any team and any organisation, and what you'll find is that there'll be a percentage of people who are the models. They're actually doing the items that we're after. They're the high-trusted individuals. They're the ones that are executing and delivering results consistently. Consistently is the key. Then there'll be a percentage of people who we would call the resistors, who, for one reason or another, are kind of stuck in an unhappy relationship, and they're often you're hearing them say like, "Oh, it's just not possible. There's not enough time. You don't understand. There's so much pressure. It's the market. It's bad. It's just there's all these what we would call excuses and denial moments that are coming through, and the person's stuck there mentally." Then we have our potentials, which tend to make up the majority, who have displayed that they can deliver results like the models, but for one reason or another, and it's usually the whirlwind, are not doing it as consistently. So with the 4 disciplines of execution, we're going to focus on our potentials and move them up to being the models. Now, over time, you will see this shift occur. Often we find that it doesn't require all the potentials to move over to being the models, but just a percentage of them to get there that really has a huge lift in the business. Now, what you'll find with the resistors is that many of them, once going through the methodology, will be so engaged around both the clarity as well as the engagement process. And I'm going to talk about that at the end, the process of applying the 4 disciplines. It is really the key for this to work. Not the concept of what it is, but it's the application that gets you there. Some resistors will also say, hey, I'm not playing this high performance game, and they'll probably go and choose to go and leave and work somewhere else. And it's often very beneficial for a team when we start to get a team all really focused working together to deliver the results. Not surprisingly, it's a very powerful time in business. Now, as I'm about to share with you now the methodology itself and explain each of the disciplines, and no doubt there'll be some questions that come through along the way. Now, it is a super fast-paced webinar today. I'm covering a lot in a short period of time. So any questions that come through, I'll address those at the end, and if time permits, otherwise, I'll certainly get back to everybody via email. My email address will be available for you at the end as well. So let's have a look at the 4 disciplines of execution, knowing that our biggest challenge out there will be the whirlwind upon us. And most of us, once again, are feeling it right now. And we get to really hold the whirlwind at bay by applying the 4 disciplines. There are a few warnings or watch-outs along the way. First one, it's really simple, but please don't confuse this simplicity with being simplistic or just easy to go off and get done. This one will take some effort, and we work as guides to help you get there. And today is just a little bit of education so you can get to understand the 4 disciplines, and then if you think it works for you, let's help you out with how to get there and make it stick. The second watch out on this is that you need to do all 4 disciplines. It is a match set for this to work. Once you're up and running with a team, you're driving these results and you're driving that performance, you'll quickly learn how important it is to use all 4 to get your result. The other item too is that each of the disciplines is counterintuitive, and I'll point those counterintuitive components out as we go. All right, here it is, the methodology, the 4 disciplines. Let's have a look at discipline 1, to focus on the wildly important. And in discipline 1 here, we're applying the concept of focusing on less to achieve more. You see, if we've got 2 to 3 goals, in addition to our whirlwind, chances are we could achieve 2 to 3 with excellence. And the key word there is excellence. If we were to increase that to 4 to 10 goals, then we would start to see our capacity diminish. Not surprisingly, if we add 4 to 10 goals on top of our whirlwind, then we've actually got less time to work on any of these. And of course, if you've got 11 to 20 goals, well, then the chances of delivering anything with excellence is diminished down to 0. This is called the law of diminishing returns, and it is absolutely at play whether we realize it or not. One of the challenges for many of us as leaders is that we've got our positions of leaders because we are high producers, okay, and we like to take on a lot of challenges. And I like a lot of challenges. That excites me. I also have learned over time that I need to pick 1 or 2, maybe 3, but I really like to narrow it down to 1 or 2 of absolutely must-deliver activities to give me the big yes to drive for. Now, we give these a nickname. We call them a wildly important goal. And these are the goals that will significantly drive the organization forward. We're going to narrow the focus in discipline 1. We can't do it on the whirlwind. There's too many things there. We need to do it on the new goals or activities. You could think of the whirlwind with all of its goals in it, everything that we need to do to deliver the organizational result. And that within there are some that are even more important than others. And based on that, you could kind of drag one of these out of the whirlwind, all right, place a disproportionate amount of time, energy, and effort on that particular goal. So remember, it has come from the whirlwind in the majority of cases. We're just going to drag it out, separate it, and say, hey, this is the one that we're going to drive up. This is the one that will make all the difference. Rally the troops behind it, and then apply disciplines 2, 3, and 4. So these types of goals, so that we know which one we're talking about, we call them a wildly important goal. And here it is about moving the needle on these and absolutely smashing them out of the park, significant impact. Still recognizing that the whirlwind will always be there, and we must continue to maintain and sustain what occurs in the whirlwind. We cannot ignore it, okay? And it's going to come and find us, that's for sure, if we tried to ignore it. It's got its own sense of urgency in there. Our new goals or activities, our wildly important goals, we're going to amp up the urgency on this one and place that extra amount of time, energy, and effort on them. Now, for this to work, at the top of the organization or top of your business unit or area, division, state, we need to get some clarity first. And that will be, what is the wildly important goal at the top? Then as we break it down to the next levels, what are the wildly important goals at the next level? Now, we often refer to the top one, give it a bit of a nickname. It's like the war. It's the overall item that we're looking to win at, and the ones at the next level down are our battles. So that we invoke a rule here to have the fewest number of battles to win the overall war. From that, we then got our levels of clarity, and divisions or departments below can then start to sculpt what their wildly important goals are in order to fit into the whole model. Now, you may have picked up on that moment there. It's up to the different leaders at the next level down to come up with the goals for their particular area and to brainstorm with their teams and have their involvement. A very key component around how we teach the detail of the 4 disciplines of execution is in the application of the methodology and the engagement process that occurs. There is in fact a sub-rule here that helps with this, and that is that as a leader you can veto but don't dictate. You can veto if when the team come up with different ideas, but we're not going to jump into dictation mode to being the dictator, pardon me, meaning that to just tell everyone what to do. Yes, we need guidance at the top. We need clarity with that top goal from the board and CEO and the C-level executives to know the direction. And that's the strategy component that's top down. However, execution is bottom up. It requires the leaders of each of the teams to essentially pitch back to the leader above and say, hey, I believe we've got the right goals here. What do you think? And the leader to either sign off on those and agree with them, or if they haven't got them right, the team needs to go back and have a look for new options and then keep pitching back to the leader until they've got an aligned strategy. And we teach in detail how to do that well in our full training sessions. Each of the wildly important goals, another rule here, must have a measurement component to it. And you'll notice on the screen, each of those boxes has changed to being called a lag measure now. That's what majority of the goals in our organizations are. They are lag measures. And they need to have a metric behind them so if we can tell if we're winning or losing. So X is where we are today, and Y is where we need to be by the future state, and the by when is the date by which it must be completed. So an example could be to increase new business sales revenue from 20 million to 32 million by the end of the financial year. That would be a wildly important goal written in full, and it has that lag measure of sales revenue in there as an example. Now, as the leaders throughout the organization, we must assure that the combination of each of those goals added up together will impact the overall WIG and that top level goal. And knowing too that at times they're not going to add up like a mathematical equation, because you may have service delivery in one area, sales in another, and you may have IT in another, and so your goals can be very different throughout the organization. Strategically, that needing to understand that they do connect to impact the overall goal above. Now, discipline 1, the counterintuitive part is to say no to the many different goals that are around us and narrow the focus down onto really just 1 to 2 wild important goals per team at the same time. In discipline 2, it's all about acting on the lead measures. Now, this is a different type of performance metric that is missing in the majority of organizations. Here, or if it is in play, then often the application can be improved on how we apply it. Now, the tactical goals for the year to help us deliver our strategy have just been mapped out in Discipline 1 across all the different teams. Now that we're down towards the front line, here we bring in a new performance metric called a lead measure. So the lag measure itself is what we want to achieve, and the lead measures are how we're going to get there. These are the behaviors that the team will need to do consistently to turn into habits to really drive our results forward. Now, some examples here within this, one could be sales as an example. We're increasing new business sales from X to Y by the end of the financial year. If we're in solution selling, then a lead measure could look along the lines of progress 2 opportunities, 2 steps through the sales process per salesperson each week. Wow, can you hear how clear that is? Progress 2 opportunities, 2 steps through the sales process per salesperson each week. That's one example of a very highly leveraged lead measure. It also gives the team members a lot of choice on where they're going to focus on those opportunities, and based on having a clear sales process, those steps, knowing what they are and how to get them through. And there's a lot of quality and refinement that comes. The behavior we've learned over time is very predictive of achieving the overall week. Now, this is a key component. All lead measures need to be both predictive of achieving the lag measure and something that the team can influence. And they're the 2 key elements of a good lead measure. Is it predictive of achieving the goal, and is it something we can influence? Now, often this is where people will shy away on the lead measures, because people will often recognize when you eventually uncover your lead measures that, yeah, well, I get that, I know that. Yeah, of course that's what we need to do. You might hear things like this said. But there's often a difference between what we know and what actually gets applied in full. Let's have a look at some others here. We've got a great one in some pharmaceutical sales. Increase the revenue of, we'll call it ABC drug, from 10 million to 15 million by the end of the financial year. And this particular example, a team discovered that spending 360 minutes in theatre with a surgeon from a target list each month per salesperson is the key behaviour to drive up the sales result. You see, in this one here, it required the sales team to actually act as a trusted advisor to a surgeon during surgery. Think of how difficult it would be to get into surgery with a surgeon, and yet knowing this as the key and critical factor that makes all the difference, that is the lead measure that the team commit and deliver upon to drive up their sales. Here's another one in safety and in construction. Of course, reducing the number of accidents per month from, and I've got here, X to Y by the end of the year, is a real crucial one for teams that are in safety. And there can be a number of different measures here on the week too. It could be all injury frequency rate, or TRIFR for those that are into the safety numbers as well. There's another one. Total recordable injury frequency rate. There's often a whole bunch of different metrics, but all lag measures, all after the fact. It's too late when we get this one. And this particular organisation, when they were reducing their safety, what they focused on was an increased compliance to 8 key safety factors. And they found that those 8 key safety factors were really simple things. They're actually things like wear your hard hat, wear your safety boots, wear your gloves and goggles and so forth. They're really basic things that most people would say, well, shouldn't the team be doing that anyway? And I find that with your lead measures, and we can sit here in a session on a webinar and together and we can chat about them, and they often sound really simple when we're talking about them, and they are. However, for a team to actually uncover them the correct way, which gets them the buy-in required to deliver it, that takes a little bit more effort, because the team are often so close to the lead measures, they don't see them like this in the same way. Or they may respond with things like, yeah, but we're doing that anyway. And so if a leader is ever to try and I'll use the words, push lead measures down on a team, the leader will find that there will be pushback and often disengagement, and generally what happens is it's the failure to launch moment occurs. And it really only happens because we haven't engaged the team properly in the process that allows them to uncover the lead measures. And when they do, the ownership and buying goes up so quickly, a leader will often find that the types of lead measures that they had desired the team to do, there could be things that they've been struggling with getting the team to do consistently for years often, all of a sudden turns the corner and the team are bought in and are delivering results. It's fascinating to watch. Another great example, if you've ever got projects to deliver, this is working with a global software development team on their project delivery, and we help them increase their on-time project delivery from 65% on time to 98% on time within just over a 6-month period. And they did it. This is a group of professional software developers, all right? This is a very clever team, very highly intelligent, highly trained, highly skilled and trained in project delivery methodologies. Yet in saying that, within their project delivery methodology, there were 2 key behaviors, lead measures, that had not been getting done consistently. One of those was the sign-off on the project plan, and the other was around the weekly project deep dive meeting with all of the stakeholders for the project. So everybody knew it. They knew that they should be doing it, but they came to the realization that they weren't consistent around it. And by applying disciplines 1, 2, followed by 3 and 4, they're actually able to drive up the lead measures and achieve their overall result. Now, the counterintuitive part of discipline 2 is that as human beings, we fixate on the goal, the lag measure. In fact, we've been pre-scripted and trained into this through the majority of lag measures in our organization. So we fixate on the goal rather than acting on the lead. The behavior part is often important but not urgent, and it's easy to push to one side. And then we get freaked out at the end of the month or the quarter if we're not achieving our overall result. So the lead measure, being the most predictive and influenceable activity, is a really great forecasting tool for success, and it helps your team to have a win early on because they have a high level of control over this. Discipline 3 is all about creating compelling scoreboards. And here is where the team members, we recognize that they really play differently when they are keeping score. So these will be their scoreboards. These are not dashboards that the senior level executives are looking at. This is for the team to see. And within your organization, you'll now soon, once you've applied the 4 disciplines with us, you'll see scoreboards appearing right around all the different teams, driving up the levels of accountability, as well as the celebration around performance as it moves forward. And we have a real objective viewpoint into the strategy. This is a team game, and it requires the team members to create their own scoreboards, keep them nice and simple. I hope you got that. It's the team that need to create the scoreboards, not the leader. Very critical element here. Scoreboards need to be highly visible to the players, have the right lead and lag measures, tell us immediately if we're winning or losing, and with these bullet points in mind, we have a look at a good but not yet a great scoreboard. I quite like this, and if you've read the 4 Disciplines of Execution book, this will be familiar to you. So the example here is to beat the GOAT. The wildly important goal is to book 428 exhibitors for an outdoor convention by October 30. Now, on the vertical axis, we've got the number of exhibitors booked, and in the horizontal axis are the sales weeks remaining. The grey dotted line represents the trajectory or the target of where the team would like to be, and they've got a goat there showing his climb up the mountain, you can imagine that. And the red dotted line represents the actual of where they are. Now, the red punches out at us very quickly, letting us know that the team are behind. And in your mind, I want you to think of this. Think, why are they behind? Why are they behind? Now, some of the responses I will often hear as well, they haven't really done much. They're continuing on the same path, or they haven't booked the exhibitors, or the targets went up, a whole range of different things. And in reality, we just don't know why. Not until we include some lead measures that are the most predictive and influenceable activities that will allow us to deliver the overall result. Now, I've picked out a couple of really basic ones here. I've got number of sales calls being made, and then a number of direct mail pieces being sent. Both of these, we would say, are good behaviors towards helping to drive the sales result. In reality, they're behind on sending out the mail pieces, which means the sales calls tend to be ineffective. And so for the team, they can now look at the scoreboard and they can now decide and they can choose where the new level of effort needs to be applied this week in order to turn any part of the scoreboard that is red into the green. Now, when it comes to creating scoreboards, as I mentioned earlier, it's key that the team members are involved in the creation of these. And as I flick through giving you some examples of some different scoreboards, you'll see just how varied they can be. And they could be simple whiteboards and then got a theme around them. Look how the creativity and then the simplicity. I really like this one. This one's out in the Pilbara, and it's a good example of how the teams involved in this process, even with these simple scoreboards, nothing held them back. You can see the reflection on the scoreboard there of that red dirt and dust in the background, and this is literally just on a lean-to. Nothing has held these leaders back from delivering their scoreboards. Here's another great one, just saying if you're out on site somewhere and you get the team to meet around it, even anywhere you can find a spot, even to just hang a whiteboard will get you what you need. Here's also some printed versions of scoreboards that come from our system, my40x.com, which is an online tool that helps you with both scoreboarding as well as Discipline 4, and which I'll get to in just one moment. Here's a great one, very visual, Officeworks, a electronic chalkboard, under $100 and nice and colourful. You could be just using Excel, you can print these out on the walls. They really look great and highly engaging for the team. Once again, it's the team that are up to creating these ones. Okay, and just how creative they can go. My40x.com, tool by Franklin Covey, which comes as part of our implementation process and available to those that go through the 4 disciplines of execution management certification. There are wildly important goals, the lead measures, all high, clear and visual, showing us if we're winning or losing, and allows us to also track our commitments, which is part of Discipline 4, to create a cadence of accountability. Now, I'll just step back for a moment around Discipline 3. The counterintuitive part here is simply to have scoreboards. And we can agree that, hey, it'd be great for the team to be able to see if they're winning or losing, but actually to apply it and do it takes some effort, and as a result, with that whirlwind, tends to hold most people back from doing it. Also, knowing how to create a scoreboard that is highly engaging and compelling is a real key component. And I feel that with the 4 disciplines, we get to fulfill on our duty as leaders to really help people see that they're winning and really drive that sense of winning within an organisation, within our teams. And you get to see it manifest through that scoreboard, and then it's further enhanced by Discipline 4 when we meet around that scoreboard weekly. Discipline 4 is to create a cadence of accountability. And in Discipline 4, we have the team meeting each week around the scoreboards and My40x to answer a question, and which is, what are the 1 or 2 most important things I can do this week to help drive up the team's performance on the scoreboard? What are the 1 or 2 most important things I can do this week to help drive up the team's performance on the scoreboard? And in doing so, what occurs here is that the team's members are looking at the scoreboard, what is red and what is green. They update those numbers so they can see the change in progress. And then they share a commitment, 1 or 2, possibly 3, that will help to drive those numbers forward. And they absolutely commit to delivering those results. Now, when it comes to making this work, it's key to ensure that we have goals that will require a change in human behaviour. Now, it could be around financial, things like customer growth, top-line revenue, bottom-line profits. However, we see less than a third of clients start on that revenue, the profit side of things. Operations could be production volume, speed of delivery, quality, market share, expansion into new areas. Customers, customer satisfaction, net promoter score, bearing in mind that their perception and subjectivity, so we need to talk about those in more detail. Where we don't start with the 4 disciplines is on the employee side. And the reasoning behind that is that if you're looking to drive up your engagement scores, you will get that as a byproduct and delivered in spades when you apply the 4 disciplines through the manager certification process. You get that by default. It's fantastic. You'll see your scores go up. It's important to therefore focus on a business goal that will drive it forward. And if you'd like some assistance in trying to figure out which are the right type of business goals for your organization, then it's worthwhile getting in touch after today's session so I can help give you some guidance through those areas. Structure when applying the 4 disciplines is also very important. And in any organization, we realize that you'll have senior managers, you'll have team members, and then you'll have senior leaders at the level above the senior managers. And every organization is quite different, but this gives us a very simplistic view of an organizational chart. I point this out because the most highly leveraged individuals when it comes to executing on a strategy are in fact our little Bs, our managers that are running our teams at the frontline level. They are the ones that have the biggest impact over delivering results within the teams. They are the most highly leveraged individuals. And when we can get the leaders of these teams all firing together like cylinders in an engine, doing the most important things and delivering upon their promises, then you have a culture of execution. So if you imagine each of these teams meeting each week around their scoreboards, and each team member committing to the 1 or 2 most important things they can do to drive those numbers forward and then delivering upon those each week, then we've got ourselves a culture of execution. People understand what the most important things are. It's on the scoreboard. The strategy is really clear. They then commit to the most important things that will help to move it forward, and then they deliver upon that each week. No matter how big the whirlwind is, they absolutely deliver upon those items. And when we see that occurring in the majority of the teams, and most of the people, most of the time, doing the most important things and delivering upon their results, then you've got a culture of execution. Now, the beauty is that through the 4DX process, you deliver new levels of clarity and transparency right throughout the organization. And in doing so, really leverage up the ability to deliver the results. Now, we've learnt over time that to get this to work, there's a gap between the knowledge component and the application piece. So if this is starting to sound like it makes sense to you, then what I recommend is we spend some time to uncover what it looks like in your organization, especially around the structure and then around some potential goals as well. I'd love to be able to help you out with that. The reason is that I see a mistake that can occur is that we get excited with the methodology and we read the book. For those that may have already read the book, it's a really good read. And for those that haven't, jump on and grab one and have a read too. I often think the more you can skill up your knowledge as we're starting to roll out the methodology, the better, more impact it will have for you. I've seen this one before where someone gets really excited. They buy a book for everyone and they expect everyone to then apply it as a result. Now, a stroke of the pen strategy is to buy the book, right, and send it out. But it doesn't get you the behavioural change you're after. It will increase the knowledge. I think we can all know of different books that we've read over time, and we've got really excited, we've got a whole heap of ideas out of them, but then realise that out of all those, when we go to apply even just a few, the whirlwind hits us and we get stuck. So we've recognised that to help organisations out to really get this to stick, we do a couple of things. First of all, we spend often just a single day with the executive team so we can get really clear on what those wars and battles are, those top-level, wildly important goals for the team. Sometimes exec teams, they would like to spend 2 days, and we'll just uncover which is the most suitable for them. But often the best way to sort of put the toe in the water and get started is just to understand what are the wars and battles and understand how the process would look in your business, and we can do that within 1 day. Beyond that, it's then the 4 disciplines of execution manager certification process, where we take you through a process of learning and applying the 4 disciplines, and we support you as your guides the entire way through. It makes this a very rapid implementation process, and it allows you to get off the ground and to deliver the results fast. We go through, or we bring some key people in from the organisation. We go through what we call a launch meeting, and we do some coaches training. We set up internal coach or coaches in your organisation to help support you into the future. Our intent is to pass on all our knowledge to you so that you can go forward and sustain this within your organisation. Of course, we'll always be here to help you into the future, but our intent is to help you sustain it well and truly into the future. This becomes your operating system for execution. Think of it like putting in a CRM in many aspects. The CRM is your customer relationship management system. It is an operating system for customer relationship management. This is your operating system for execution that will live both in the minds and certainly in the hearts of your team, as well as physically around the business through the scoreboards on the walls and the My4DX system as well to help you get there. We do a manager certification process where we bring our little B managers in as well as the big Bs. You may recall those from the slide earlier. So the managers that run their frontline teams are going to learn the 4 disciplines of execution. They're going to learn what the wars and battles are from the leaders. They're going to come up with their own wildly important goals, and they'll learn the process of actually how to do that. That's the key component, because they're going to learn how to do that so they can teach it back to their teams, and this is how we get it to stick. They'll also learn how to pitch a goal back to the leaders and the rest of the room, so we've got a balance across the strategy. In day 2, they'll spend 3/4 of the day on lead measures. This is how important and how critical lead measures are, and the time it takes for the leaders to really get it, understand it, so they're able to then teach it back to their teams. And they'll uncover the process for finding and uncovering lead measures, as well as the correct way to write them so they can drive behavioural change. After that, we'll look at scoreboards, and they'll do draft scoreboards so they'll know how to teach it back to their teams. And then day 3, we'll go in depth into how to hold the accountability sessions, the discipline 4, the cadence of accountability, and the nuances and what to do and how to hold someone accountable when they don't actually follow through on their execution. And that one changes the game forever in the way a team responds to execution. It's really simple. It's not easy, and so we're going to practice that one so your leaders are skilled in it. And it's also counterintuitive to the majority of what they've been told before. And this is where we get the breakthrough results. Rather than following the status quo, what's always been done before, we're going to teach you what truly drives results forward in the team. And on day 3, there is a moment that is just magic. We're also going to have a great range of resources to help them. On day 3, they're going to learn how to teach it back to their team, a PowerPoint presentation, a suggested script, engaging videos that help do a lot of the teach as well, and so that they can then roll it out with their teams. And in the next couple of weeks after you've done your manager certification, the leaders will be skilled and ready, and will go out there and teach to their teams in anywhere from 3 hours to a half-day event. They'll set up with their teams. Highly engaging. Often you'll see leaders, some might go in feeling a little apprehensive, and they all pop out the other end saying things like, "Oh, I couldn't believe how engaged my team were. They came up with so many great ideas. There's just it feels like we are alive again. It's such a wonderful experience." I know this firsthand because we come back in after that launch session and we do a review with each of the leaders. It takes 35 minutes per leader, and we make sure that they're all set up and ready to go. Make sure that their scoreboards are right and their My4DX setup is all aligned, and they're very clear on what to do next. And then, of course, they're having weekly sessions, accountability sessions with the teams going forward. Some of our larger sessions, larger rollouts in organisations, so the 500,000 person mark at 10,000 people, we have a leadership certification day where we're going to look at the data and the metrics and how to further drive your business based on the data. We also support you with coaching sessions, and then every quarter you'll do a report out session with your team. So our frontline managers will report back to their leader above on their progress, and that formal time is also a review point as well. And we teach you how to do that really effectively. Some really great tools to help you get there. Typical performance curve you can expect to see. We go straight out the gate from manager certification launch. You see results. There's an adoption phase as people are building the habits around execution. We coach you through that so you go through to optimization and the achievement phase as well. Now, imagine there's a bunch of questions. One of them, of course, is where to from here. And I'll be attending to those after the webinar as well. Please send them through. We're just about to wrap up for our 50-minute webinar today. Feel free to contact me direct. It's Matt Kesby is my name, mattk@franklincovey.com.au. For next steps, what is in most organisations where we move to from here is to do an it could be a simple conversation first, and in order to work towards an executive overview, which is where we come in and we spend a 90-minute session with the executive team to take them through the 4 disciplines of execution and understand some potential wars and battles for their business, and then just do a double check to make sure that 4DX is the right fit for your organisation. We're very protective to make sure it's the right thing for you and that we're the right fit to work with you. We don't work with everyone. We do limit our implementations per year as well. We focus on excellence. Not surprisingly, we apply our own methodology back to everything that we do. And so we focus on delivering excellence within the organisations that are selected for the year. We then, once you go through the executive overview, then it's about doing a Wars and Battles Day. Of course, for some, they might need some more information, so we can do another webinar specifically for your business if that makes more sense. So I'd like to thank you very much for your attendance today. I hope this has helped to share some more detail on the methodology itself, give you some more insights, potentially ask some more questions. Does this sound like it's something that would assist us to drive strategies that we currently have or need to have that will require a change in the behaviour of our team? If you do have these strategies that require human behavioural change, then the 4 disciplines of execution will give you the framework to drive the results forward. My name is Matt Kesby, Execution Practice Leader for Franklin Covey, Australia and New Zealand. It's been such a privilege to have you on board today. Thank you so much, and I look forward to speaking with you very soon. Bye for now.